All right, and we are live. Welcome into Short Yardage, presented by For Fancy's Sake. I'm Michael Sicoli. I'm here with Nick Grawl, who I just talked to about saying the name right, and I think I butchered it. How are you doing today?
You're good. I tell the kids, I'm a middle school science teacher. I tell the kids like "gur" like a bear, and then the word "all," so "gural." You nailed it. Short pause, but you still nailed it. Good to be here.
It's all about the recovery. That's really what I was going for.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, no, it's awesome to be back. We got mini camp starting up. We have our second show of the year, and many more to come, and we have plenty of news thanks to minicamp. So, what do you want to get into first?
Well, first of all, I want to say, yeah, really excited for minicamp. I got the mustache staying for all of August. I don't know why yet, but just feels right, especially because I'm going to be on camera here doing this podcast with you throughout the month. Going to try and keep it weekly, but also layer in maybe some emergency pods when we need them. We'll be dynamic with that. Also wearing the kimono today. This is the kimono that I wear while I code. And the reason I'm wearing it while I'm on here with you today is we're going to take a look under the hood. And I'm going to show you some stuff that's going to drop in our draft guide early next week. So excited to get started. Yeah, let's jump right in.
Yeah, and before we get into the news, we got a great slate today. We have the Aaron Rodgers debacle. We have some buy-sell again, with some great training camp headlines, a little bit more fresh. And we have, the tier base, the under the hood third part that we always love to get into. But I want to run by a dynasty trade to you. We're still in that season, still July, barely. But I was wondering, as a Cam Akers owner, I got approached with this offer. I have Zach Moss, who's currently my RB3. It's not great. It's a contending team, but fresh out of a rebuild. So would you send Zach Moss and a 2023 third for? Oh my goodness. Zach Moss and a 2023 third for Nico Collins and a 2023 second.
Yeah, I think especially because it seems like, I don't know, maybe Hurts is going to end up in Houston. Deshaun Watson's there now, so the arrow's up on Nico Collins. You're just kind of collecting a little bit of draft capital there. It makes sense to me. Shipping off Zach Moss, I think people are high on him, but I don't really think you want to be invested in that backfield right now. But yeah, it seems fine. I would note that this is the time to capitalize on we really want to kind of ignore a lot of the stuff coming out of camp. But if people aren't in your league and they are reacting to it, it's a really good time to be buying and selling in Dynasty right now. So that's kind of how I would play it. Where I don't take it seriously for the most part, but if people in your leagues are definitely leverage that. Yeah, so getting a little Zach Moss hype out of camp, a little bit of Nico Collins hype out of camp. So we're just trying to trade in hype for hype there. So I'm all in.
Yeah, no, and I think right there is exactly why I brought it up, exactly why I want to bring it up. Is for especially for those contending dynasty teams. You can flip someone who's getting hype for a 23 pick and get tremendous value, especially for that 2023 class, which, if you are not aware, is going to be a stellar group. That's a very strong group all around. So that's a good class to buy right now with the picks are low. So yeah, maybe I'll send that over. But all right, let's get into the meat. All right, first segment: Aaron Rodgers returns to camp after months. It feels like of just is he going to be there? Is he not? Are we going to see the Jordan Love era start? Is he going to be traded? Is he going to retire? The MVP's back, and that has huge ramifications.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, that whole saga, it just seemed kind of orchestrated from the start by Rodgers. I think he did kind of want to test the market a little bit. It doesn't really seem it was about money. It was about control, about power. And it seems like he got what he wanted. We'll talk a little bit about Randall Cobb in a minute, but obviously Devontae Adams, Aaron Jones, they all move up into the first round where they should be. Aaron Jones on the fringe, but I mean, if you're taking an RB early, I don't know that you can do better than him. He's got a little bit of less volume than your true workhorses, but Jamal Williams has gone, taking a lot of targets with him, or leaving a lot of targets behind rather. We're not really sure if A.J. Dillon can catch passes or not because he never really did in college, but Boston College was just like a run the ball down your throat team, so he might surprise us this year. But still, I mean, I think they're going to lean on him on passing downs, 2-minute drill, 4-minute drill, where we make our money. Tanyan is back in play heavily. Alan Lazard, Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Quick shout out, pour one out for our boy Amari Rogers. He's probably going to have to wait a year and learn behind Randall Cobb. I thought he was going to kind of step into that role, but Aaron Rodgers is in love with his boy Randall Cobb, and it is kind of awesome. I mean, he's like, that's his one guy, Randall Cobb, bringing the boys back together for one more go. Kind of cool. But where is Aaron Rodgers going to go? Like I said, I think all of those pieces should move up in ADP, and that's justified. I think I'm still buying them at their elevated cost. However, with Rodgers, he's got touchdown regression on the way. I think about 2 years ago, we kind of were a little early on writing him off on the age model, on him kind of phasing out as a 37-year-old quarterback. 37-year-old quarterback. He's 38. He's not getting any younger, but I don't view that as the problem. I think he'll still be productive, but he only threw for about 4,000 yards and had a ton of touchdowns. So he had an elevated touchdown rate last year. That should come down, and he's going to go right there probably around Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert. And honestly, give me those two guys over him because I think we haven't really seen their ceiling yet, whereas last year we kind of saw an outlier year for Aaron Rodgers on touchdowns. So I think that's due for a little bit of a regression. Yeah.
Yeah, and regression is the name of the game because, if you see that coming, you're avoiding the price. And Aaron Rodgers is going to have a fantastic season. Just like last year, he has a chip on his shoulder. He's going to be great. But bringing up the regression point, he had the lowest amount of attempts passing-wise, with the exception of 2017 when he was hurt, since 2014. But he just all simultaneously put up the most amount of touchdowns he scored in a very, very long time. So there's a lot of things to be concerned about. And that now the biggest winner from Aaron Rodgers' comeback has to be Aaron Jones to me. Aaron Jones is catapulted into RB1 territory, whereas he would have been a middling low-end running back too that I am not touching with the timeshare of A.J. Dillon. But, the dump downs are going to be there for Aaron Jones. The wheel routes are going to be there for Aaron Jones. And the goal line carries will be as well, even if he splits it with A.J. Dillon. Robert Tonyan's back in the conversation as a stream-worthy, touchdown-dependent tight end. Again, but might even be a bigger winner of he's not in fantasy consideration if it's Jordan Love. But as for drafting Aaron Rodgers, obviously his ADP is all over the place. You can't put a beat on it with all the news. But currently he's going in the 6th round, which I'm sure he'll bump up to, let's say, early 5th. Where are you taking him there? Are you taking him in the mid 5th at about probably around QB6 range is what he's going to be going for?
Yeah, like I said, I mean, so his career touchdown rate, or his career touchdown percentage is 6.3%. 2018
league average is about 4.5.
Yeah, so obviously an above average quarterback. He was league average or even slightly below in 2018, 2019. 2020, 9.1% touchdown rate. There's not a single quarterback in the history of the NFL that has that sustainably. He hit that mark 9% in 2011. Next year it dropped down to 7.1. That takes you from 45 touchdowns to 39 touchdowns, which again, those points add up. Now, I bring that up because I'm not targeting Aaron Rodgers because I don't think, unless you are a running quarterback in today's NFL, you got to have one of those outlier touchdown seasons. So I'm kind of banking on him kind of coming back down to earth on those touchdowns, which at the 5th round price tag, he's going to need 45 plus touchdowns to pay that off. I think Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow are more likely to pay off a price tag like that, just from sheer volume alone. And I think Justin Herbert's, I think he's going to have a really efficient season with Joe Lombardi. But think about it this way. All those rushing quarterbacks there that might be going a little bit before him or even after him, 5th round is so pricey. But if they get 50 rushing yards, that's 5 points right there. And it's in a league that's like in a standard league. And so, like, every game they're getting an extra touchdown on Aaron Rodgers. And again, in order to keep up with that, he has to really outpace them with touchdowns in the air. So I'm out on Aaron Rodgers at his price. Luckily for me, I know everyone wants to hear this. I was all over him all summer in best ball. So that's where my shares of him are. Because the Sims don't have Twitter.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think, and I don't think the 6th round trade to get Randall Cobb is going to be helping those touchdown numbers nor anything else. Randall Cobb will be a real life asset. He might have a PPR game here and there, but it's not going to be predictable.
Let's talk about that though. Let's talk about Randall Cobb, because today I was at a summer camp with a bunch of middle schoolers, and I was thinking on a bus, I was like, what do we think about this Randall Cobb deal, right? Now, is he washed? Certainly. How do I know? I mean, he really hasn't produced in some change. I mean, he kind of did okay with the Cowboys, but I think we do need to pay attention to the guy who has the ball on every play. If he really likes somebody, I think that I don't think his ADP is going to get out of control. I think a lot of people are going to big brain this and decide that no. If I don't like Randall Cobb, so it doesn't matter if Aaron Rodgers, he has the ball and he is literally in charge of who gets it. So if they're down at the 5 and Devontae Adams has the entire defense looking his way, Aaron Rodgers knows that, and he trusts his guy, because trust is such a big thing with Aaron Rodgers on all aspects of his life. What a lunatic. But I could see Randall Cobb having like a little spike year in touchdowns, because, I mean, it doesn't matter how washed you are if you got Devontae Adams on the other side of the field. So I think he's worth a flyer. And what's his ADP right now?
I can't imagine he's being drafted, because it definitely hasn't adjusted. I could look it up right now. But he's the 345th player off the board, the wide receiver 110. Obviously, that will go up. My biggest issue is where you're going to take him. You're going to take him those double-digit rounds. I don't see any upside. I don't. I see like maybe he's a bye-week filler. Maybe he can get you 10 to 12 points. Randall Cobb has never been a big touchdown scorer. And I just don't think that Randall Cobb is going to be the guy that gets, it's who I want to take my late-round shot on. I can see myself, if I have an injury and then another injury, and I want to plug and play, get my 8 to 10 points of 6 catches for 45 yards, and maybe he gets in the end zone. Maybe that's Randall Cobb, but I don't think he has the upside to draft right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking like a end of your bench stash. Let's see. In Houston last year, he played 10 games, 48 targets, 38 receptions, just a really underwhelming year. Year before that, 828 yards with the Cowboys. He hasn't
going on age 31.
Yeah, going on age 31. I mean, I think he's worth a stash because Aaron Rodgers likes him, and he might score 10 touchdowns. I don't know, something like that.
Sure.
Do you remember James Jones?
Oh, I love James Jones. Yeah, James Jones was a beast on the Packers, but James Jones was an outside receiver. Randall Cobb being in the slot is another thing weighing against him. He hasn't scored.
Say this. It's eerie. He was with Green Bay, went to Oakland for a year, and his age 31 season came back to Green Bay, had 800 yards, 99 targets, and 50 receptions. I'm just saying. We've been through this before. James Jones was a big time asset that year. That's a take, buddy. That's a take.
I think James Jones had more left on the tires than Randall Cobb did, but I think we're splitting hairs of maybe you take a chance on the aging vet. At the end of the day, he won't cost you anything. If you're wrong, you cut him. If you're right, you sell him on this narrative that we're telling you right now. I think we get on into buy or sell, which was great last week, and I can't wait to get it again. So on Tuesday, Chase Edmonds said, and this went a little bit viral on Twitter, a lovely quote of that he has both bulked up and slimmed down this offseason. So he weighed in at 210 last year. He told people that he was 205 right now. So I'm going to take the side of slimming down. So what are you making of that news?
I just think it's hilarious. I mean, he's literally slim thick right now, I guess the idea, he was trying to communicate that he really took care of his body, which, I mean, he did drop weight, and that has correlated. in a very, very small sample with success.
Running backs improving,
Yeah. But I mean, it's like the type of idea like everyone's so optimistic right now. All the beat writers are in the bleachers, just throwing out optimism, hopium we call it in the biz. I don't know what biz, but we call it hopium. But I mean, I'm into Chase Edmonds. I didn't need to see this. If this is going to affect his ADP, whatever. But I think it's like so funny that it probably won't. But yeah, I'm into Chase Edmonds for sure. So I guess I buy it, even though it's ridiculous.
Let me throw this out here. Do you think he outcarries James Conner, who was signed to, for anyone who wasn't following this offseason, the Cardinals did sign James Conner to a 1 year, just 1.75, but fully guaranteed $1 million deal.
Do I think he outcarries him?
Because I was doing I started doing my projections yesterday, my stat for stat projections. I mentioned to you before the show, and it's something I'm going to fiddle with, but I'm giving him a 50-50, a slight edge to Edmonds right now. I gave Edmonds 185 carries. I gave James Conner 170 through a 17-game pace, which was about 11 per game.
Yeah. So it kind of depends on how they divvy up these Kenyon Drake carries. Kenyon Drake had 239 carries last year.
It's interesting because that's a lot of carries, but they also, they gave it to one guy, which I don't think they can do with James Conner. And I don't think they can do with Chase Edmonds. I don't think either of them can do that. So I think they'll cut it and just be situationally based around the field. James Conner maybe gets red zone work, and then Chase Edmonds is there the rest of the way.
Yeah, 67 targets last year for Edmonds. We'd like to see that. I think that's kind of like that's the usage I care about. I don't care at all about the between the 20s stuff. I care that Chase Edmonds is going to be the third down back. I care that Chase Edmonds is going to be there in 4-minute and 2-minute drills. Those are the valuable times that we want. And I do think that they'll probably split the carries. Now, it's going to be kind of a competition to see who can stay healthy. And I just honestly I never want to invest in both. Backs. Because you need to have conviction on one or the other. Because if you're going to draft James Conner and Chase Edmonds, you're limiting your upside of your entire lineup. That's just my opinion.
I agree.
So you have to take a stance on one of these, and I'm going to side with ADP. Chase Edmonds is the one going earlier. I'm going to take the wisdom of the crowd approach here and just kind of ride with Chase Edmonds. I think he's the one that's going to get it done and be the more valuable guy in that backfield.
So let's adjust this buy sell right here. So quick, Chase Edmonds in the back of the 5th, James Conner in the beginning of the 8th. 3-round difference. Who are you taking? Because I'm taking Edmonds personally, unless I'm taking a receiver there, which I'd much rather do. But
yeah, I mean, that's a little too that's a little too rich for Edmonds, to be honest with you. Yeah,
it's definitely rich.
I feel like I need him to drop one more round before I'm loving that. That's a tough one though. I will say this. I mean, I guess if I miss out on Edmonds and Connor's there in the 8th, I don't hate that at all. Yeah, that's a tough one for me.
It's a good 0 RB target, at least for James Conner, that is.
Yeah, I guess the build, taking Edmonds, you're taking Edmonds as your first running back. I'm fully on board with taking Edmonds if I have 4 stud wide receivers already.
Or 3 in a Kelsey or Kittle or Waller type of thing, maybe.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. So
I'm back in. I'm back in. I'm back in. I'm taking Edmonds. I'm taking Edmonds in the 5th after starting with Diggs, Ridley. I don't know, whoever I can get my hands on, whoever going to let me have, because the running back thirst is real.
No, yeah, I love him. I got him on my dynasty team, so that'll definitely be his ADP and James Conner's will be interesting to track as it goes forward. Yeah. So our next up, we got Kyle Shanahan said that there's no quarterback competition, and Jimmy Garoppolo is the team starter. Do we buy? Do we sell that, or is this something we thought all along?
Yeah, I mean, this is another one. I love Trey Lance. I'm a Trey Lance stan. So I'm going to choose to say that this is a motivational tactic. Like, you can take these headlines any way you want, right? So I'm going to choose to say that this is Kyle Shanahan kind of patting the ego of Jimmy Garoppolo and giving him a shot in camp as the incumbent and making the rookie work for it. But I mean, it makes sense. I mean, he has 1 year of college production where he just absolutely shined with 35 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. He threw his first interception or whatever in like the senior game or no, that one-off game during the COVID year, which seems like it was 10 years ago, but it was literally last season. But anyway, it's a lot of fluff. I'm selling that. I mean, you don't invest what they invested in a player. And I mean, we might not see him week 1. I get that, but I'm not drafting Trey Lance and depending on him to be my starter week 1. I'm pairing him with Baker Mayfield, Kirk Cousins, Derek Carr, these guys who are literally free, and just biding my time so that Trey Lance can come through like Lamar Jackson his rookie year and just absolutely smash in the playoffs.
Yeah. See, this
fresh
is on that
legs.
Fresh legs, and to be in a longer season as well. But this is actually something I've been buying. I've been saying it all off season. Listen, they invested the world and then an arm and a leg on top to get Trey Lance. That is true. But we have also seen we saw. I hate to bring it up because everyone did, but Patrick Mahomes. They traded everything to get Patrick Mahomes. They rested him, and they had a capable quarterback in front of them. And say what you want about Jimmy G, but they win with Jimmy G. Jim Garoppolo is 22-8 as a starter in San Francisco. They're going to roll him out there until his ankle falls off. And then maybe we see Trey Lance, who's going to be a fantasy darling, who has potential to rush for 1,000 yards as a quarterback. Can't wait. But, I mean, this is something I buy. I thought Jimmy Garoppolo was going to be the starter the entire offseason. I think there's still a world we don't see Trey Lance if this team wins. I think there's a lot of similarities to the Kansas City Chiefs of Mahomes' rookie year. To this 49ers team, which is a lot better than it was, like a lot better than people give it credit for.
Yeah. A lot of people like to bring up a lot of teams want to do the Alex Smith, Patrick Mahomes model, which is just such a unique situation where Alex Smith was still very good at the time and a perfect fit for Andy Reid's system at the time. Whereas that's the exception and not the rule. Everybody wants to let their veteran ride off into the sunset after drafting a high rookie, but very, very rarely does that pan out because you have a bad game. The one thing I will say, the 49ers schedule is laughable. It is so weak. So Jimmy G will probably have some success early. It's just when it comes down to it, Shanahan hasn't really ever won the big one. And he's tried it with Jimmy G. And all I'm saying is all it takes is one bad loss before the bye, and we're going to see Trey Lance after the bye. I hope they don't they don't do what Miami did to Tua, though. That would be devastating.
And force it. I think that would be bad as well. And for whatever it's worth, I agree. The KC thing is, and last point, but KC thing is an outlier. But I think that there's a lot of similarities there. I would never say that the Bears should be starting Andy Dalton right now. This is not a situation where you need to sit just Justin Fields. You can throw Justin Fields out. Justin Fields can take care of that. You don't need to wait on Justin Fields. Let's see what you got. He's much better than Andy Dalton. But so let's move on to the next one, which we saw. There were a few reports out of Denver. And start of the week, wishy-washy, and now Aaron Rodgers is confirmed to stay. So the vibes out of Denver right now are not great. But Courtland Sutton has been cleared for the beginning of camp, but he is on a rep. His reps are managed, which Sutton kind of disputed. But at the end of the day, I'm taking Vic Fangio there. And meanwhile, Drew Lock's taking first team reps. The competition's still going. And I also saw some positive reports about Jerry Jeudy being a dynamic out there. But once again, Denver's a bit of a enigma right now.
Yeah, I mean, what are we doing here, Denver? What? Drew Lock stinks. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
he stinks. However, I think he's getting a little bit of grace for a weird year, right? Because last year was the prove it year for Drew Lock. They didn't draft Justin Fields when they had the chance. Mistake. But I do think that they're going to give him a chance with Sutton, Judy, Fant, Javante, Williams, Melvin Gordon. I mean, KJ Hamler. I mean, he has all the weapons in the world. But I mean, at the end of the day, he stinks, and he's going to sail one to Sutton wide open in the end zone, and you're going to see Teddy Bridgewater, who coaches love because he manages the game, he manages the clock, he plays within structure, he stays on schedule. Like all of those football guy things, and that team is good enough to do well with the game manager. I think their defense is going to be good. I really don't have a good reason why I think their defense is going to be good, other than that historically they're good and they have some good playmakers. But one way that I kind of view defense is how much money they have invested in their defense, and Denver is near the top of the list there. And yeah, I mean, it would be a shame for this team to turn into a game managed defense wins championships team when they just have so many young, flashy players. So, I mean, Teddy Bridgewater did fine last year in Carolina with some pretty good receivers, and I don't know. Drew Lock's fun, I guess.
Yeah, and I do think we'll see Drew Lock to start the season. I think they'll try him out and then immediately realize that Teddy Bridgewater is a much better quarterback, and we'll see Teddy Bridgewater. And Teddy Bridgewater produced 3,000-yard wide receivers last year. None of them scored touchdowns because Teddy Bridgewater can't complete drives. But at the end of the day, which Brandon McManus might be a buy, at the end of the day, talented receivers end up catching the ball. And assuming Jerry Jeudy can actually do that, there's going to be week-to-week value with these two. And Teddy Bridgewater can supply that. The ceiling is what's limited by this quarterback competition. And to touch on Sutton's ACL, I think we both expect him to be 100% for week 1. We might even see him in the preseason. And yeah, I mean, I think that's honestly all I want to say on Denver.
Yeah, let's move on.
Yeah. So we got some Saquon Barkley news that we thought about bringing up last week, but we got some more touch-ups. ESPN's Jordan Rannon reported that Saquon Barkley and the Giants, they're taking a long-term approach, which kind of it's something I buy. It's something that adds up with everything Saquon said. He's been reluctant to commit to starting the season. He's been reluctant to training camp. He's been reluctant to preseason. And this is what happens when you get the surgery a month after. Like, Saquon Barkley did not get the surgery for his injury, which was severe. It was more than just an ACL tear. He also tore a PCL, and I think one other thing in there in his knee. He didn't get it until a month after the injury. He got injured in week 2. He got the injury mid to late October. That delayed his recovery, and we're feeling the effects of that now. We might see him week 1, but it's time to consider that he's not going to be ready for week 1.
I'm selling everything you just said. I'm selling everything in this headline because the reason why they delayed it a month is medically that reduces the chance that there's a flare up, a bad recovery, a re-tear. So that was like a calculated move that actually will increase his chances of being good this year. There's another headline, which for some reason the Barkley haters are strong. And there apparently are many. Don't phrase me as I just want to clarify. I'm not lumping you into that group. If anything, you just didn't go to med school, which I guess that's on you. But I didn't go to med school either. But I follow some people that do, and they said it's a good thing that he waited a month. But the Barkley haters, of which there are many, have stifled the news that they're actually going to kind of ramp him up 10 days before the beginning of the season, which to me does not indicate that they're taking a quote unquote long-term approach. The writing on the wall is on the wall for Jason Garrett. The writing on the wall is the writing is on the wall for Joe Judge. You're going to tell me that week 1, if they're down 2 touchdowns at halftime, that they're going to trot Devontae Booker out there again? Like, come on. And I look at it this way. Like, it's not going to last more than a game, easing him in, right? Sure. So is Saquon Barkley more likely to go in the first round next year? Let's say he stays healthy, or the third round. way more
First
likely
round.
to go in the first. He's going to finish
Yeah,
strong, which is what you want your fantasy players to do. And yeah, I mean, injury risk is there, but it's there for every back that gets 300 plus touches, 250 plus touches. I'm not scared about off by it. If anything, I'm glad that it's going to keep his ADP down. If I can get Barkley at like 7, 8, 9, like that's cheating.
sure.
That's cheating.
No, and I'll take him there. But when I'm considering him at the top 5, and I have to consider that he's not going to be out there at full strength in week 1, that's scary to me. When I'm spending, we talked about it as well. I don't like. I mentioned it last week. I don't like investing risk in my first round pick. And Saquon Barkley, as talented as he is, and as ready as he should be, he carries that risk being a part of the Giants and being coming off this injury, where I think he's going to be eased in. I don't think we see him in minicamp. We won't see him in the preseason games. And if he's being trotted out, a few days before the game, the writing's not on the wall for Joe Judge. I think that they're very happy with Joe Judge. It's on the wall for Jason Garrett, but Jason Garrett does not have control of personnel. If they want to ease Saquon in, which I think I don't even think it's a matter of want. I think they're going to have to. I think we're going to start seeing him start off slow and heat up as it goes, which I'll still take my first round pick on him, but I'm going to want to take him around the 7-8 range now.
Yeah, I can see why. I mean, the answer, as always, is just take a wide receiver in the first round and move on from there. But the people aren't ready for that yet. One day they'll catch up.
All right. and for our last headline for buy sell, we're gonna touch back to Los Angeles like we did last week with Darrell Henderson, who is now slated to be the 3-down workhorse for the Rams. And Sean McVay called him an every down back. And then he said that he needs to stay durable, which is the other part of what we've been saying. This is just a clear buy to me. This is everything and more. And everything that suggests to me, which I'm not sure if I had time to bring up last week, that they're going to bring in someone. I don't care that they said that they're not going to. That's because the crop right now is terrible. When cuts come around and let's say Damian Williams doesn't make the roster for the Bears, Damian Williams is going to find himself as a Ram. Or someone somewhere, Melvin Gordon is a surprise cut. Someone's going to get signed because and McVay just said it. They can't trust Darrell Henderson. And I don't think they're ready to go into this year after investing everything they had in Stafford. They're trying to win. They are ready to win. This is a ready to win team. They're going to find someone on the wire. They're going to find someone through trade. I don't think, unless Xavier Jones and Jake Funk show something huge in the preseason games, I think they're going to add someone, and that makes Darrell Henderson a very scary gamble.
Yeah, but I mean, where you're taking him, right? Like, let's go back to Barkley. Like, I was a little tongue-in-cheek there with saying just take a wide receiver in the first round, but like I said, like I love a team where I just hammer wide receivers for the fourth 4 rounds, grab a Kelsey, Waller, whatever, Kittle, and then I'm completely fine with riding with my RB1 and RB2 to start the year with Chase Edmonds and Darrell Henderson. And that will make some people queasy, but the opportunity cost there is, okay, I'm going to miss out on Odell Beckham Jr. I'm going to miss out on a couple solid receivers. I already have my 4, right? I'm going to rely on them to like carry my team. And then let's say Darrell Henderson gives me 8 good weeks and then goes down with a high ankle sprain. I'll just plug and play. And I mean, obviously there's going to be someone on the Rams I can pick up, right? Just play the waiver wire, especially Fab. I'm just going to be aggressive on running backs with my Fab. Like, I mean, I just think that's the strategy this year because there are a lot of question marks in this first round at running back. A lot of red flags, which is still Christian McCaffrey. Is he now injury prone? Dalvin Cook. Last year was the first year that he kind of stayed healthy. Derrick Henry.
Our quarterbacks. Situation.
Yeah, Derrick Henry. That defense is atrocious. Are they going to be able to establish it? Alvin Kamara. What the heck is going on in New Orleans right now? Jonathan Taylor. Is he going to get passed downward? I can keep going, right?
Yeah.
But these are just the first 5 players off the board in PPR leagues, and I don't get it. I do not get it. Stephon Diggs gets an offseason with the love of his life, Josh Allen. He's the best route runner in a generation outside of Antonio Brown, and he's going – 7 overall, 8 overall? Like
we're going to dedicate a whole segment next week to a 0 RB versus a RB heavy approach. All right, we're going to do that.
Okay,
I know what side you're
I'm
going to
getting
take.
off tangent. I'm getting off the tangent. Darrell Henderson, let's get back to him. I think he's a great bet where he's going. I can even do with his like where's Chase Edmonds here? Chase Edmonds
is in the 5th, and Darrell Henderson's in the 6th. So that is a realistic. What you said there, I'm not gonna lie, it did sway me a little bit. Where if I could start my draft with 4 great wide receivers / tight end, maybe even a Lamar Jackson if I'm feeling it, and then I could come around and take Chase Edmonds and Darrell Henderson back to back. I can see myself liking that. My biggest worry is that Henderson doesn't last 8 games. And maybe that handcuff, it's not clear, or someone else already owns him. Maybe someone's been stashing him. And if I can't get that backup, running backs can be hard. Like we're going to disagree on running backs can be hard to find, but burning a 6th-round pick on someone who maybe he's out there, maybe he's not, maybe he's out there and he's injured, but he's not truly out there. It's a little bit worrisome to me. A 6th-round pick is not nothing. There are wide receivers I like in the 6th round.
Oh, definitely. You still got like Claypool there. I know you're a big Claypool guy. Steelers Nation stand up. It's gonna be a rough year. But yeah, I mean, we need to get into that debate. That'll be a good one.
Yeah, we do. Oh my God, the Steelers this year. We are both Steelers fans, and we both, I think, are very pessimistic about our team right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So let's move on to the under the hood segment that you mentioned. I'm sure everyone, people are waiting for this, and I strongly suggest that you check this out on YouTube. Get the data, eyes on it, instead of just viewing it through the podcast. But let's see what you got.
All right. So I'm going to give you a look at the code here. We're not going to go into detail because again, I'm the nerd. The whole reason I'm here, so you don't have to worry about this stuff. I got you covered. But I did want to show you some data viz here. This is what you're looking at right now, and I'll describe it for those little audio description of coding, which is always a good time. But I essentially ran it's called a clustering algorithm, which is pretty common. I didn't invent it, obviously, but there's a website called borischein.co. Really great resource throughout the season. I'll link it in the article that I'm writing for this tiers chart that I have. That's going to be in the draft guide. That's going to drop early next week. Boom. There's a plug. We're really getting good at this, Mike. Let's go. But anyway,
seamless.
So what Boris Chen does is he will do the Fantasy Pros expert consensus rankings. He aggregates them. Well, Fantasy Pros aggregates them, but then individually he kind of looks at the standard deviation, which is basically the difference between the highest rank and the lowest rank, right? And in his graph, that's what these the middle point here is the average, and then the bars, which are called like error bars, standard deviation bars. This would be the high, this would be the low. Okay, and what I did was I took a wisdom of the crowd approach, which let's take a step back here. My whole approach to fantasy football is leveraging wisdom of the crowd for the most part. And the reason is we have, as human beings, have an incredible ability to estimate specific numbers in large crowds. So a classic example is there's like a carnival and there's this big bull, like a cow, and you win a prize if you guess the correct weight. This experiment's been done many, many times, and any one individual guess is going to be pretty far off, but the average of like, let's say a large number of people, 300, 500, 1,000 people will literally get within like a tenth of the actual weight. It's amazing. So what I'm doing is my whole approach is the more data I can bring in to aggregate, the closer I think I'll get to what the specific amount of fantasy points that these people are going to score. So what this is it is a average of all the expert consensus rankings for preseason projections. It is an average of ADP across not just like Yahoo, Sleeper, across every major platform. And it is an average of value over replacement ranking. So it's three pretty significant sources. It's about 50 experts, 20 years of NFL data, and about 10 fantasy football websites that each have thousands and thousands of people making estimates when they draft players. And essentially when you draft a player as a collective, you're ranking them, right? So I'm taking all that, plugging it into this algorithm, and then it's clustering them into tiers. So I'm going to write a whole article kind of rehashing that. For those of you listening at home, what I'm looking at here is it's a list of every single player that's relevant in a 12-team league with 16 roster spots. So the last player on the list is Josh Kelly, Donald Parham, Jimmy Graham, Deshaun Jackson. Tier 1 is Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, Travis Kelce, Alvin Kamara, Devontae Adams, right? So these are just essentially ranks, okay? And what it's done is it has color-coded the tiers. So like I said, tier 1 is Derrick Henry, Devontae Adams, Alvin Kamara, Travis Kelce, Dalvin Cook, Christian McCaffrey. It's saying that those 5 players will give you the most points over the 12th player, or sorry, the last starter in that league, essentially, give or take. And these error bars kind of give us a range of outcomes. So the way you want to use this is I'm going to put it in a spreadsheet so it's a little cleaner. But you want very little narrow arrow bars in your early picks because you want safety. Okay. The ADP has already done the work for us here. These are players with high upside already. We don't need to get more upside out of them. The upside is baked in. Whereas you get into these middle rounds, right? This is where we make our money. Okay. So you want to be targeting players that have arrow bars that are wide, right? Both downside and upside. Okay. We don't want to finish 6th. We don't want to finish 5th, right? We want to finish
play to win,
get our money back, or even win the league, you know? So I'm taking chances on players like a Chase Edmonds. There we go. Popping in the model, right? Where he could be another tier or even 2 above where this algorithm has him, and it has that kind of baked into it. So again, it's really hard to kind of explain this, but the data viz is kind of cool. As you see, as you get into later rounds, the arrow bars get wider, which is fine. But I don't want narrow error bars in my late round picks. So like a Marvin Jones, like I know what I'm going to get out of him. And it's not going to be a league winner, right? Where zero RB god himself, James White, like he could be an RB2 and he's going real late in drafts, right? A Mecole Hardman and Gus Edwards popping in the model. Let's go. Like these are exciting players. Mecole Hardman's a fun one, but yeah, I'll plug these in. I'm still working on just a heads up. I'm still learning like the data viz of this, like the code and stuff I have a pretty good handle on. But as you can see, if I go down here, the arrow bars are not lining up with the players. We got a little bit of mess here. I'm really showing you what's under the hood for real.
Under the hood.
But It's interesting. It says there's a huge drop off here from AJ Brown to Allen Robinson. That makes sense to me, you know? Like this is your elite tier, and then we have kind of like your players that could get there, but right now they're not quite there yet. But yeah, and what do you think? What's your approach for tier-based drafting, Mike?
See, and my biggest point is that tier-based drafting is the way you want to go. You know, the days of, you know, you take your top 200 big board players, the days of that when you look at Matthew Berry and say, you know, this is the next guy up, those days should be done. Those days were back when you were in high school and you were just playing for, you know, we're still playing for fun, but we were playing a little bit more knowledgeable here if you're tuning in. So tier-based drafting, this is the mindset, right? Where I'm in the back of the first round, and all of a sudden, Nick Chubb's there. I love Nick Chubb, but Nick Chubb is a tier 2 running back. He's not in the group of the McCaffreys, the Cooks, the Henrys, if we include Saquon in there, he's in the Kamaras. He's not in that tier. All of a sudden,
Can I interrupt you for a second? I'm sorry. You're sitting down, right? Nick Chubb's actually tier 3 according to the Sims. Tier 3. Well,
it's according to the Sims. The Sims, Nick Chubb is fantastic. Nick Chubb is a very strong tier 2 running back, as I was saying. Mm-hmm. Pure talent, whatever. But Nick Chubb is great. He's a great player, a great fantasy pick, in my opinion. But you could sit there and you could take a tier 1 wide receiver. You could take a Stephon Diggs. You can take a normally Michael Thomas, a DeAndre Hopkins. You can take a tier 1 wide receiver and then come back at the second round, whether top or bottom, and take the bottom of the tier 2 running backs. it's the thing about tiers is that they're not too far apart within it. Your goal is to group players together and then take the value as it goes. You're taking the top of each tier. Now, that doesn't apply to all positions, where you might see a quarterback and say, wow, Patrick Mahomes is a tier 1 quarterback. He's still there in the second round. But the difference between tiers for certain positions are different, namely with quarterback and tight end, where with quarterback, tier 1 to tier 4, not that much different purely because of how many players can get it done. Tight end, tier 1, you're the Kittle, the Waller, the Kelsey. Those guys are in a league of their own. They are heads and shoulders ahead of everyone else, and you have to draft them as such. But once you get down to, you got tier 2, all right, tier 3, oh goodness, and then tier 4, maybe. That's it. It's about recognizing the tiers when you play. You don't draft according to a big board. You don't draft according to projected points. You draft based on players available and taking them at the highest, at the best point relative to their position.
Yeah,
and that's kind of my biggest point with that.
Yeah, we want to be taking we're really hitting our stride in drafts when we're getting a lot of players that are the last one in their tier, right? So that's kind of how you want to approach it. Like if you're between okay, do I take a quarterback or a running back here? If there's plenty of quarterbacks left in that tier that you have and only one running back left in their tier and they're similar tiers to in your opinion, you want to take the running back. So the tier-based drafting kind of helps you structurally kind of work your way through a draft. And then another layer to the tier-based drafting that I'm going to help you guys out with is that you'll be able to see that upside within the tier to see who has the best chance of finishing at the tier above where I have them currently. And one thing interesting about Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes is these tiers are value over replacement tiers at their core, which means that if you are taking these tiers as kind of not position by position and you're just taking them based off of tiers, you could do pretty well by just drafting off of this and trying to get the last person in each tier. And I think you'd end up with a pretty solid team. Probably not the best approach for a tournament, but definitely a solid approach for a 12-team league, especially if you just want to kind of plug and play and you don't want to put a whole lot of work and you don't want to think too hard during your draft, which I know there's plenty of people out there like that. But yeah, super interesting. Excited to write the article, and we got a lot of cool stuff coming for you in the draft guide. What do you got for us in that draft guide? Anything you're excited about?
I mean, I have my redraft comic guide coming out, which was avoid risk early, stay water. But it's something you should really check out. I put a lot of work into it. I think I think it applies to every fantasy owner, whether you're a common player or you're playing for the money type of thing. But all in all, I think to sum this, this under the hood part up, attack upside in the later rounds. That's a good tie to all of this. But I think that's where we're gonna wrap it up. This was a very fun show. Second edition of Short Yardage presented by For Fantasy's Sake. This a lot of fun.
Oh yeah.
Any final remarks for you?
Make sure you follow me at run_the_sims. I'm gonna have nuanced, measured takes for not all of it'd be impossible, but a lot of the ridiculous headlines coming out of camp. And like I said, really excited for the draft guide coming out early next week. All the writers at For Fantasy's Sake, QC.com, the one and only fantasy football source for the Quad Cities. I think I got that right.
Yes, you did.
But yeah, we're excited. It's going to be a fun month, and thanks for tuning in, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, my name is Michael Sicoli. You can follow me at Michael Sicoli. As simple as that. You could follow For Fantasy's Sake, just FSQC on Twitter. We name dropped the website right there. We got divisional breakdowns coming through, whole lot more. We got merch you could buy on the shop. It's really endless. I strongly suggest check it out. Thank you for tuning in. And this has been Short Yardage. Have a good night.